Heyo! So I want to do a quick history video on this guy right here. Boom! This is my drawing of the guy, and here's a real image. Okay, back to my drawing. The guy in the image is Bass Reeves, the real-life Lone Ranger. And let me tell you, he's a better Lone Ranger. So Bass Reeves was born in 1838 in Arkansas. Sadly, he was born as a slave under the household of a man named William S. Reeves. At some point, William moved to Paris, Texas, and he brought along everyone. Well, when the Civil War exploded, William made Bass accompany his son George Reeves to fight for the Confederacy. Wanting to be free, he ditched George and ran all the way to the Native American territory, now known as Oklahoma. The natives who lived there were a mix of Cherokee, Seminole, Creek, Choctaw, and Chickasaw. They gathered there due to being forced from their homes because of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. They took in Bass and he lived with them. He learned the landscape, customs, and even languages of the Seminole and Creek Native Americans. After a while, the 13th Amendment was passed, and Bass was now considered a free man. So he went back to Arkansas, where he got married and had 11 kids. After a decade of living free, he got a request. A man by the name of James Fagan, who was ordered by Isaac C. Parker, was assigned to hire at least 200 people to become U.S. Deputy marshals to hunt criminals hiding in the West, ranging over the 75,000 square mile territory. Fagan asked Bass due to his Civil War background and his reputation. Bass agreed and became one of the first black U.S. Marshals west of the Mississippi River. So Bass, having had a background there, was assigned to the territory of Oklahoma, and he was sent off. And he was great at what he did. Let me tell you something real quick. For context, he was 6'2". Alright, pretty tall. He never got shot by a gun or taken any injuries. Alright, not bad, not bad. He brought in 14 criminals dead. Man's got a positive KD. Oh, and he brought in 2,000 criminals alive. What? Yep, you heard that right. 2,000 people. And not a single injury. On top of that, there are tales and stories that his big white hat got shot off his head multiple times in his life. This guy was the John Wick of the Old West. I mean, his last name is Reeves, for the love of the fish in the sea. During the 32 years he served, he had some crazy stories. I'm only going to tell two. One time, he dressed up as a beggar and wandered the streets of a place where two criminals lived. The mother of the two sons, who were criminals, invited him in so he wouldn't freeze at night. Well, the two brothers woke up handcuffed and they were dragged away. That's one way to wake up. Another story to show this guy was literally living in an action movie. His own son got charged with murder for killing his own wife. When Bass Reeves went to go pick up the bounty, the other marshal said, "Sorry, we can't give you the bounty." But he stepped in quietly and simply replied with, "Give me the writ." A few weeks later, he arrested his son and charged him of life in jail. Talk about a grounding, eh? Anyways, he was let go of his position in 1907 when Oklahoma gained statehood. The reason being, it's because he was African American, he was no longer able to serve as a U.S. Deputy Marshal. Bruh, he was literally the best U.S. Marshal they had, and they fired him because of his skin color. Stupid! Sadly, he died 3 years later after catching Bright's disease. His story and legacy lived on, though, terrifying criminals and inspiring the story of a Lone Ranger. And you may be wondering, how did he inspire the Lone Ranger? Well, most of the criminals he caught and the stories that followed them were sent to the Detroit House of Corrections. The same exact city where on the radio station WXYZ, they broadcasted the debut story, The Lone Ranger, on January 13, 1933, 20 years after Bass died. It's not confirmed, but I mean, come on, what are the chances of that? Anyways, that was the story of Bass Reeves, the first black U.S. Deputy Marshal west of the Mississippi, and the real-life Lone Ranger.